It's making sure you don't panic when it goes down. That's really the key to being successful. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We were just talking about the level of anxiety that people face today, especially when it comes to investing in markets and retirement and, where their lives are going, whether they're going to make it in retirement. And a lot of times I face this with times where the market is going through fluctuations, ups and downs, and nobody ever worries about upside market fluctuation. They don't worry about upside volatility. It's always downside volatility that unnerves people because, let's face it, markets do this, right? They go up and they go down, they go up and go down. When this is happening, we're all good, no worries. When this happens, we start to look around for evidences on what's going to be coming next. And typically what happens is the media in their normal form and fashion will give you lots of negative information during times like that. You'll see lots of scary stuff, a lot of scary stories. You'll see conspiracy theories coming out all over the place, telling us that it's going to get even worse and how people are meeting together and conspiring to do this or that. And I always get a kick out of that simply because I find that people have a really hard time conspiring to do anything because their interests are actually at odds with each other when it really gets down to it. So what happens is this: we're looking for this prediction about the future, and what we want to do is really name what is anxiety. Anxiety is a fear of the future. Now, the way our brains work is we'll go to anxiety, and then if we stay in it a long time and we ruminate on negative things, it leads into depression. Now, depression is when we go into an anxiety state and then we combine that with hopelessness. It's never going to get better. It's not going to be any better than this. And then what happens is people go into that depression. They start to hunker down even more. They look for evidences that things are going to get better. And of course, you're not going to find that in the media. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So my friend's telling me about this book. And it's out there. It's on an app. You can get this. It's really a short thing. You can go into. It's on Audible is what it's called. And the name of it is the ThreeDay Effect. Okay, so what they did was fascinating. This guy was one of the researchers. Guy's like 6'7", and he's playing around with what are called functional MRI machines. And if you're in the medical field, you know exactly what that is. And there was a lady, Florence Williams, that actually was the author of this. And it's short, like I said, like 6 different episodes of this, and you can go through them pretty quickly. They're like 20 minutes long a piece. But what they did is they took groups of people and they put them out in nature for 3 days. And the idea was this. They said, there's a 72-hour effect that we tend to ruminate and think about things that have happened in the past 72 hours. So you get somebody out in nature, you get them out in the waterfalls and the lakes, and you get them on trails and out cooking over a fire. Typically the first day it's kind of hit and miss. You're not sure where this is all going to go. And the second day they're starting to get better. By the third day, something magical happens because the last 72 hours they have spent out in the middle of nowhere with no phones, no TVs, no radio, no anything. And what they find with people is that they had these people that had PTSD, people that were war veterans, sex trafficking victims. They had people that had gone through terrible marital breakups and all kinds of trauma. And what they found is that there was this incredible change in these people. And what they were actually looking at is they hooked up MRIs to these functional MRIs to these people, and they wanted to see how their brains changed. And what they found was amazing. Their brains had significantly changed over a 3-day period. What they found was that these people, their creative abilities had significantly increased. Their ability, they gave them a string of numbers to memorize, and they found that their ability to recall numbers and their actual cognitive abilities had increased. They found that their moods had increased. One lady's talking about how she was able to sleep through the night. She'd always used sleeping medications. And she said, I don't know what it was, whether it was just being tired or what, but she said, I slept like a baby. And she found that only after being out there in nature and being cut off from everything did these changes take place. Now, one of the guys in the office was saying, well, Paul, what happens if these people go out for 3 days and they come back to life as it normally is? What do they normally do? And I said, well, it's kind of like, think about it. If you've ever found something that you really enjoy doing, I'll just use the example of coffee for the fun of it. If you're a coffee drinker, you know that it's really one of those things that it can be a pick-me-up and help get the cobwebs out of your brain. And you can imagine that if you got this cup of coffee, right? It's a terrible cup. But anyway, if you got this cup of coffee and it makes you feel better, it's kind of something you want to go back to. And it's just like that with nature. If you feel better after doing something like this for 3 days, you're going to want to keep coming back to it. It will become a habit. I tell people, go back in your backyard. Take your shoes off. Take your socks off. Walk through the grass in your bare feet and just reconnect with the outdoors. Listen to the birds. Watch the squirrels run around. Reconnect, because you're going to find that your level of peace of mind significantly increases when you do that, especially when you're just getting back into the moment. And that's really what you're trying to do. Get back into the present, because remember what anxiety is. Anxiety is a fear of the future. You're living into a future that hasn't arrived yet. It doesn't belong to you. It's not where you should be living your life. Live your life in the present. Notice that markets, they go up and they go down all the time. It's part of what markets do. And it's part of the reason that stock markets have historically given us higher returns. It's because of those ups and downs. It's making sure you don't panic when it goes down. That's really the key to being successful. And not looking for the negative information when those market downturns occur. Well, how do you break away from it? Get away from these things, get away from TV, get away from your phones, and get out into nature. And the 3-Day Effect, it's a really good antidote to a lot of the things that have been creating anxiety and depression for us for too many years.